Welcome to the River Cruising Masterclass. I am so excited. We are here today with Ama Waterways to give us an update on so many amazing things. We've got new brands, new ships, new itineraries. Like the amount of times that Ama Waterways is in my email is exhausting for all the new things that we have going on. So I thought I'd bring Brian on so we can kind of talk about what's going on and how they're just really the perfect river cruise for you.
Thank you, Sydney. Yeah, I'll go with that. Perfect river cruise for you. Indeed,
Yeah.
that's a great way to start. Actually, it's interesting you mentioned that. We are proud as a company, Ama Waterways, as any company would be, to, receive accolades that come our way that in some ways are a surprise or unexpected. And one of those that just happened, I'll just mention, you know how U.S. News and World Report, they are known for every year coming out with their assessment of hospitals and doctors, and for a lot of people, that's an annual thing that people pick up to have as a go-to piece as it relates to medical care, right? The U.S. News and World Report on hospitals, doctors, et cetera. They also do it for colleges and universities. So lots of parents of kids that are in high school pick up that as well to help as it relates to ratings for colleges, universities, et cetera. Well, you know where I'm going with this. They for also
Look,
just
just as important as hospitals and doctors is
Yes,
travel,
exactly.
okay?
Yeah,
Mental
well,
health.
to stay out of the hospital, you gotta try right, you gotta have some downtime and relaxation and river cruising and all that. Anyway, they decided that they were going to go into an rating of river cruise lines, and so, again, you know where this is going. We were very pleased to be named by US News and World Report, as the best river cruise line out there, so that was, about a week or so ago, and so that was very exciting to have that come our way, but
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so river cruising, just real quickly, is having a moment. Pre-pandemic, which now is many years ago, river cruising was very much in vogue, very, very popular indeed. Well, guess what? It has rebounded unbelievably, such that if it's not the hottest thing in travel, it's definitely on the medal stand, right? In terms of what consumers are looking to do. And we at Ama Waterways, we don't do a ton of advertising, so we rely on folks like Sydney to get our name out there, right? Because not everybody is aware of who we are as a company. Even though we've been around this July 1st, it'll be 24 years that we've been around as a company. And we are the second biggest river cruise line after that company out there that everybody knows. So we're number
I don't know
two
what
in
we're
terms of
talking
that's right. I said we're number 2, but that can also represent that who else is out there is yeah, and they'll always be the largest, and so they have the certainly the megaphone as it relates to marketing and all of that. However, you do a little more investigating and research, in terms of your interest in purchasing a river cruise through Sydney, you'll find that we're there too, and we certainly differ in many, many ways. We're actually the largest river cruise only company, right? So, as far as that goes, that's all we do is strictly river
Yeah.
cruising. We have about 30 some odd ships right now. And the cool thing is that we announced recently that we're going to be building up to over 50 ships by 2032.
50?
So, over 50 vessels by
Like new
2032
ships or on top of what you already have?
on top of what we have now. So,
Okay.
so we have 30 some, yeah, not 50 plus the 30. It'll
So
be,
like another 20-ish.
yes, another 20-ish.
That's
Yes.
still insane though.
Over 6 years,
Congratulations.
that's quite a few, yeah, so, we're diving, headlong into growth, and so it's exciting in that sense to be with a company that's, again, looking to grow because you don't grow unless, you feel the demand is there, and we're fortunate, again, to have a kind of product that people, as far as coming with us, they tend to come back again and again and again, so we're happy about that, and then, we'll look for new customers, to come with us as well.
I was gonna say, Brian, on that exact same topic, I had a client who did your guys' Ama Magna, and
Right.
it was the best vacation of their lives. And they were looking to do an ocean cruise, and I was like, "Don't do that company that we just talked about. You're not gonna like them. It's not gonna be the same vibe." So they unfortunately they booked it with without they that was their decide, and they saw the excursions and what is not included, and they were so disappointed and so I think it's just understanding that, like, value add, and as you kind of always talk about, it's, like, not what you cost to get on the ship, but, like, what is at the end of the
Right.
experience, and I know you're not into ocean, but I'm just saying, like
Well,
yeah.
actually, I spent many of my 30 plus years in the cruise industry was on the ocean side of things with Princess and Crystal, actually, and then jumped to the river. It's been a while back, and it was with another river cruise company, and then now Ama for the last 9.5 years. But yeah, that's a very, I think, salient comment to make. It's not how much it costs you to get on the ship. What does it cost you to get off the vessel, right? Because the value add at Ama Waterways is pretty much the only thing we don't do. We're not alcohol 24/7, although that's being vetted right now that we might look to do that.
You have some new owners I'm really excited about.
Yes, we do indeed. The cool things were family founded,
Yeah.
right? By Rudy Schreiner, Christine Kars, Gary Murphy and his family. So family founded, so we have the family vibe, and they still are all active in the company. However, our new owners are a company that are referred to by their initials LVH, which is Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. All right. And everybody says, so will you be carrying the Louis Vuitton handbags in your gift shop soon? And I say, well, we'll see. It
I
may
have their
come.
luggage. Maybe you should do a co-brand Ama, like, Louis luggage set. I know
There you
people
go.
who would buy it.
All right.
Bring
You
that
know,
up to the top, Brian. Bring it up to the top.
that's right. Well, it's interesting because from a synergistic standpoint, they also own a very well-known top-of-the-line hotel chain called Belmond, Belmond, Belmond,
Yeah.
and they are fantastic. So we're starting to see some of our land options, right? Because a lot of our guests, not only do they do the river cruise with us, which we're happy about, but we also offer pre and post land opportunities, which a lot of guests are taking advantage of as well, both before and or after the cruise. Anyway, we're starting to see more Belmont properties, slip in there, so I think
I
that
was gonna say that's well, especially because you have your pre or post on your one of your Rhine trips that goes to Lake Como.
correct.
You could easily throw in or even the one your Venice to Paris and do that.
That's right,
Anyways,
so
we are thinking ahead of your
we are.
guys' head office, and I love that for us. I'm so excited about these opportunities.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting, and they're frankly, they are the impetus for the growth, right? So,
Right.
candidly, which is rather breathtaking, that amount of growth to think about 20 some odd new ships over the next 6
It's
years.
almost 100%. It's like
Yeah, it's
80%
it's
growth.
it's it's quite something indeed. Nonetheless, in terms of being in this sector of the travel industry, which is so popular and gaining in popularity with new entrants and whatnot, so everybody and their brother is into river cruising. But we do have I think, from our standpoint, and I'm biased, of course, but we have a pretty solid niche that we fulfill in what we do on the rivers in Europe and the other places we go in different parts of the world as well. So, yeah, all in all, I mean, there's a lot to say about Ama Waterways. Certainly, our new CEO, her name is Catherine Powell. She comes from a Disney background, 15 years as a C-suite executive at Disney, also at Airbnb. But she was interviewed at a trade event in San Diego. This has been a few weeks back. And I always kind of listen to her take on the company because she's new to running Waterways, and of course, she's experiencing the product, and so I'm definitely interested, especially from someone with a Disney background, because Disney, pretty well known for providing high levels of service, and they're very tied into what the Disney brand represents. Which, by the way, as a side note, they are our largest charter customer. They
Right.
charter from us over 30 times a year for Adventures by Disney. That has nothing to do with Catherine. It's just a simple coincidence that she happened to be at Disney as well for a stretch of time. But she was asked about the word luxury, right? Luxury, because that is something, that word, frankly, is probably overused. I mean, it's become almost, she said, commoditized, which is hard to say, but just the fact that it's overused. And so, nonetheless, she was asked, how does Ama sort of define luxury? And she had different things to say. But the one thing that jumped out to me, which I thought was kind of interesting, she said, at Ama, part of the way we define luxury is how we make our guests feel, right? And I thought, wow, that's kind of different than what you normally hear as far as a definition of luxury. But It does have resonance in the sense that that is a true statement, right? It's very subjective to say that. Luxury is how we make our guests feel. But the bottom line is when you do come on an Ama Waterways cruise, hopefully you'll remember you heard this from our little talk here. You're going to remember, I remember when Brian said it's the way Ama Waterways makes us feel. And you know what? I think she's right on about that. From my experience, I'm always just incredibly impressed. The hardware is always nice. All the river ships that are out there have nice hardware. Where the rubber meets the road is the software on board, right?
Right.
And so we have this kind of groove that we've made for ourselves that's, I think, kind of unique in the sense that we have incredibly professional crew who at the same time are warm and friendly, right? So that's a nice blend to have
Yeah.
a level of professionalism also combined with a level of warmth and friendliness. And so that's how we make our guests feel luxurious, I suppose. And so I thought that worth mentioning.
It's so true. Luxury is overused. I hate saying that, like, I'm a luxury travel advisor because what is luxury? And I
Right.
think it means so much to different people. And some people might not think they are luxury because all they want is those creature comforts and to
Correct.
feel a certain way. But
Yep.
that really is what it means in the world today.
Correct.
And that is how I think it's defined, better. And then I guess, and then also in terms of like who's now being part of your ownership, it
Right.
is all about the service, right? Like, all of the brands that we're talking about here are people that are well-established brands,
Yep.
Belmont, Louis Vuitton, like, a Disney, for a customer service piece of it.
Yes.
So, I'm
Yes.
not I guess on that same piece where we can talk about is you guys have completely redesigned your logo and how you guys are doing those pieces of it. I know. I have the old one, you can kind of barely see it if you're watching it on
Yours
video,
is the
but
vintage logo, but yes, new
yeah, sorry,
branding,
vintage,
vintage.
vintage.
Which before we got on the podcast, Sydney was calling me vintage. I think did I read that? Oh, you weren't calling me vintage. Okay,
No.
I'm joking. I'm pulling your leg. Totally joking.
Don't get me
Yes.
in trouble, Brian, come on now.
Yeah. So, yes, above me here, so we can do a comparison. So Sydney has the
The old
old
logo, yeah.
crown logo, and we now have new coloring and new logo, new branding essentially, right? With the new ownership, which, people typically have known us a certain way for over 20 years, coming up, right on 24 years, then to come to this new branding, like, what? What are you doing? That kind of thing. But interestingly enough, during one of our meetings and talking about the new branding, they put up a palette of travel companies. And I will say the predominant color, and maybe they handpicked these just to make their point, I suppose, but nonetheless, lots of different brands in this particular image. And about 75-80% were blue, right? Blue is very popular with companies, particularly, I suppose, ocean and river companies because of the watercolor or something. But anyway, we went with a color called Vivace, right? Because people say
Ooh,
it's burnt orange. No, it's actually something called Vivace in the color palette. But yes, it's a whole new branding and image for Ama Waterways. Initially, again, some rebuffing, like, what are you doing? We're used to now being, I think, fairly well received. And also, it's beyond branding in the sense of logos and fonts and colors
right,
and all of that. It's also related to specifically improving the onboard experience, right? Branding is just that's one part of it. Okay, you've done that. What is happening, to the ships and what's happening on the ship? So there's a whole level of things occurring on the vessels that we're looking to implement. We're actually implementing now. So I'll give you a few examples. One is we're putting espresso machines,
ooh,
espresso coffee machines in every stateroom, not just the suites. Every accommodation will have those, and those are rolling out through this year in Europe. We have a fabulous alternative dining option for dinner. It's called the Chef's Table. It seats about 28 guests, a little more on the Magna and the Ama Rudy,
such a
which
fun experience
it
too.
is indeed. Well, so now we're doing Italian lunches there. So the room is and dining venues being
Oh,
utilized not just for the chef's table for dinner, which is a tasting menu paired with wine, but now Italian lunches as well.
that's so
So
exciting.
yeah,
That was something I feel like was missing is, like, a secondary lunch location, so I'm excited about that.
good. Yeah. So we're looking at various things to augment and improve the overall guest experience, right? So that's important to keep honing your level of experience for the guests, right? You can never sort of sit back on your laurels. It's nice to get the accolades, right? But then you have to keep again honing what you're doing as far as what's happening on board the vessels, and so that's exciting as well, no doubt.
That's awesome. Now, I guess that on that same vein, so if someone went on Amawaterways cruise 5 years ago or something, let's say pre-pandemic, right? Because I feel like it wasn't 5 years ago, but it was actually 6. What would the difference look like now to then? Like, what have you done to enhance the experience? Kinda like things that we've talked about, but, like, would they, on I know that they'd have that same amazing experience, but what would be those little extra touches that you
A
think could
little
change?
so yeah, just off the top of my head, some of the little extra touches, and I don't not sure how many river cruise lines have their own app, right? So not that you wanna be looking at a screen any more than you do at home when you're on your vacation. Nonetheless, we didn't have this app, I don't think, before the pandemic, after the pandemic, so it's called the My Ama Cruise app, and there are
It
many
is
things.
it is one of the best, like, apps I've seen for a cruise line. It is actually pretty well, it's user friendly, it's pretty easy to do. I do like it a lot, I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you for that, and the company's constantly tweaking it. So, obviously, the daily guide, maps, intuitive things that you would just say, "If I had a cruise app, what would I include?" And all the things you think you would include, you would, of course. But one of the cool things that I like about it, because I'm one of those people that when I'm using my phone to take pictures, you think, "Oh, I'll remember where this is," and then you never do. You get home, you think, "Where was that again? I think it was in Austria, or I don't know." You forget. The app has a photo tool, as if you will, that will have the date and the location, everything built into the app when you utilize the photo app capabilities of our app for your pictures. So that's kind of a cool deal as well. The other thing I would mention as far as post pandemic is the land options, right? So obviously, when you're traveling the distance, you are traveling to come and cruise with us in Europe or the Mekong or Colombia or the Egypt or the Southern Africa, Namibia on the Chobe River.
I would
Land opportunities, you're not just typically going for the river cruise. So we have added many, many options for land extensions both before the cruise and after the cruise as well. So that's something I think you would find to be different. Also, what's cool is the cruise manager who's on the vessel with you. Of course, they're going to be on the ship, they're the cruise manager,
right.
but they are with you as well on the land programs that you do with us, right? And so what's
I
cool
think
about
that's
that
so
is then
cool,
they
yeah.
are like your own private concierge at the hotel. They're just there for the AMA guests. And if it's a pre-cruise, you're developing a nice rapport with the cruise manager before you even get on the vessel, which is nice. And then
But if
after
if
the
it's post-cruise, you already know him and you can be like, "Steve."
yeah, yeah. And along those lines, I'll just mention again, it's sort of anecdotal. Many times I get over the month, I probably get 2, 3, 4 emails a month from advisors who have taken groups with us on AMA. We're very, by the way, group friendly as a river cruise line. About 40% of the company's business is groups, which is 10 or more people. So we do like to have groups on board, which is good. And then they come back and say, we had a fabulous time, and Luis or Uwe or Rachel or it was our cruise manager, and we want to go back next year, or we want to go back in 2 years. We want to set up our next group, but can we ask for that same cruise manager on our next
Yeah.
cruise? And believe it or not, that's something we can do. Yeah, so we put in a request
Wow.
such that the cruise manager can be on the vessel when they're coming back again. So that's a nice testimony as well, and that's something that I think speaks to the level of personalization where people can group leaders, advisors like you have come back with a group to say, I want to have that same cruise manager. In terms of other things post pandemic, I would say, let me just think about it. Well, of course, again, more unique excursions, right? So river cruising is very much, we're not selling the ship as a destination unto
No, no, no,
itself, right?
it's the
Although
destination itself.
right, because all the river ships, for the most part, were all the same size, right, in terms of length and width and all, because we all have to fit through the same locks,
Except, your specialty ones, the Magna and the
which is
and
the
our
one
yeah,
pictured that you
Rudy.
have there, the Ama Magna, which hopefully we can talk about the Magna and we're gonna say the twin ship or brother ship because it's gonna be
Yeah,
called the Ama Rudy. We'll talk about that, but
we'll get there.
yeah. So where I was going with this is multiple excursions that we break up into pace levels, right? That's nice as well. So people can go at a more active pace or more moderate pace or even at a slower pace. So it just breaks the ship's complement up into much smaller groups. And it gives that, again, more intimate feeling as it relates to when you're off the ship on an excursion. So river cruising's all about immersing yourself in the local culture, right? So we're always looking to do new and different things to immerse in the local culture, right? So, for example, in France now on the Seine river cruises, we've got cooking with I think it's
Ooh.
mamsie. It's a French word for grandma, where you're getting off the vessel and going to some cooking classes, French cooking classes. So again, the cultural immersion aspect. That's right. Is
That sounds so fun.
yeah, it is. The tricky thing there is it's limited in number, right? So it's kind of a first come, first serve. So, but nonetheless, it's something we're trying and again speaks to again the idea of augmenting the product such that it is in keeping with this notion of immersing yourself in the local culture. Also, as it relates to entertainment that comes on board. So we'll have local entertainment that performs which people love as well because it's all again tied to the local culture. Also, a new relationship that we have, I'll just mention, we have I mentioned Disney already, Disney being our largest charter customer in doing over 30 charters with us a year through Adventures by Disney. But our newest official relationship is with the Smithsonian Institute, right, in
Yes.
Washington, D.C. So they have a program called Smithsonian Journeys. And by the way, you don't have to be a member of the Smithsonian Institute to go on a Smithsonian Journeys cruise, but we're doing over 30 of them this year, more next year. Two fabulous guest lecturers on board that bring to life what you're going to be experiencing on the cruise, off the vessel, that kind of thing. So, and that's something that anyone can take advantage of is on a Smithsonian Journeys departure if they want to, again, further sort of augment their diving into the local history and culture, et cetera. So we're excited about that program.
I was gonna say, now that you've talked about these additional programs, I know that one of the things that Amawaterways loves to do is have themed departures.
We do.
You guys, as
Yes,
you talked about the Smithsonian, Adventures by Disney, you guys also have, your famous wine cruises, and
correct.
and now we have beer cruises,
We
right?
do indeed. So yes, we're always sort of again in this idea of looking, we call it something for everyone, right? So we're known certainly for Disney, as you say, now Smithsonian, and then we've had a long history, I dare say, I think the best overall wine cruise program, ocean or river, just in terms of our guest winemakers that we bring on board, because in Europe in particular, everywhere we cruise, every river we're on in Europe, except for the waterways of Belgium and the Netherlands, that's more beer country, which I'll talk about in a moment, is wine country, right? You're cruising past
It's
vineyards, you're
it's the
visiting vineyards,
important
et
things,
cetera.
yeah.
So we do have these fabulous, yeah, guest winemakers that come on. So those are what are called celebration of wine cruises. And actually, they are our highest rated from a guest satisfaction level cruises with the guest winemakers on. I think people feel like, wow, it was like a cherry on top to have this guest winemaker on board doing tastings, et cetera. Very popular.
I
But
was gonna say,
now,
being from Northern California,
yeah,
it's so fun because it mixes I feel like I always call it, like, new world versus old world,
correct.
because you have winemakers in the United States who are coming on board and showing you about how these wines look in US soil versus them being able
Yes,
to experience and it's
yes.
not like it's a competition
No,
because it's
no.
it's just real it's the wine the winemakers themselves get super giddy about trying it and being able
Yes,
to
they
meet
do.
the winemakers and do that comparison, and so everyone really just enjoys it, which I think is
Yeah,
what
it's
makes
a
it fun.
fun comparison of old New World wine, and they're very different. They're very different the way the wines are produced in Europe versus, say, here in Northern California,
Yeah.
for sure. We're very much a fruit forward, very strong character, and Europe's a little more subtle. I mean, I'm definitely not a wine connoisseur per se.
You have
Nonetheless,
to
these
be in this job now, come on.
Kinda. We actually have a fellow named Robert Schmidt who's a level 2 sommelier that oversees the program, so I learned from him, but moving to this idea of beer, right? Celebration of beer. So,
Yeah,
yes, we have departures now with guest brewmasters on board, and those cruises are primarily related to along the Rhine or in the
the
Belgian
Bel
and Norway
yeah.
or, Holland area area. And so we had the brewmaster from Sam Adams on earlier this year.
Yes. I
It
was gonna
was kinda
say, a
cool.
friend of mine is his travel advisor, and so we were talking about it. It was such a cool experience just to be able to see how they, figure out how to work that out and to build that. And what I loved about Ama is how willing you guys are to listen and to make sure that, you're elevating the experience for everyone and to make it that better experience.
Correct, correct, since it's a new program for us, right, so we're sort of I don't wanna say testing it, it's definitely in place, and actually, we've got some interesting or beer masters lined up, some from Bend, Oregon, some from Northern
Ooh,
California area. This August, we have the former brewmaster at both Lagunitas in Petaluma and Sierra
okay.
Nevada up in, Chico. Anyway, so celebration of beer, that's happening. Then further, we also now have celebration of music cruises, and these are on the Budapest round trip where
Right,
we have guest music experts that come, related primarily to, the classical music, themes that are throughout Austria, obviously Strauss, Mozart, etcetera. So
yeah,
that's happening as well. Then we have for, Black audiences, we have what are called our soulful departures that celebrate the Black diaspora in different parts of the
right.
world. Those are very popular. We have Latin touch cruises for Hispanic audiences with a Spanish-speaking cruise manager, Latin dance music in the evening, that kind of thing. And for the golfers out there, we have fantastic
I
golf.
know! Your
Yeah,
golfing program is on the top of my to-sell list all the time. I'm always like, "Golfers, you're missing out on a perfect opportunity to be able to golf, and if your wife doesn't want to or your partner doesn't like golfing, everyone has a vacation, you can still enjoy, like, hanging out with each other at the end of the day."
absolutely.
But, as I say, I feel like that's a perfect way to say that. You always hear that river cruising is for older people, right? That it's not
Right.
I'm not there yet. But what you're really elevating here is that river cruising is for everyone. And Ama Waterways is just trying to be as inclusive as they can by providing these additional opportunities to make people
Correct.
feel included.
Yeah, I thanks, Sydney. I agree with that. And actually mentioning the actual, sort of age factor, if you will, the statistic in the industry is that Ama Waterways has the youngest demographic. Our median age is 56. So half of our guests are older than 56 and half are younger, right?
Right.
So, and the other thing too, just to be candid, is we welcome multi-generational families, right? So we do have staterooms and accommodations that accommodate three, that accommodate four, that are connecting, if you will. So there's that. Now, if you don't want to be on a cruise with some younger folks on board, you can always ask Sydney and we can find out what the makeup of the guests are on a particular cruise. If you say, I don't want to be on a cruise with any kids, but we take kids as young as four. And I will say, post pandemic, when families were not traveling together during the pandemic, that is a niche for us that's very important to us. Certainly, is the multi generational grandpa and grandpa, the kids and the
Yeah.
grandkids cruising together.
I've done it. I did a Christmas markets cruise over Thanksgiving, and there were kids on board, but because they're usually more well-traveled, it's
Correct.
not gonna be that same, like, carnival cruise kid that's just, like, screaming and running
Right.
around. I mean,
No,
they
no, no.
are kids, but, like, first of all of your staff just fall in love with the kids and
That's
just
right.
dote over them, and it's so cute because we had Santa on board, and we had all the carols, and it was adorable. But, like, it wasn't a huge hindrance, and then also, there was at least 10 to 15 in, like, the family groups, so they all just
Right.
happened to be every day put in the same colored group for the tours, and I feel like that was done purposefully so that the tour guide could be very much focused on engaging the kids. So you really
Yeah.
didn't get to have, which is nice about having so many tour groups, and
Correct.
different styles, so it makes it a little
Yeah.
easier.
And speaking of styles, I should mention something that we do offer are bikes on board. And so, though something new is we allow people now to pre-reserve the biking excursions, right? So we didn't used to do that, but now you can go ahead and pre-reserve. All excursions get pre-reserved. Bikes are new to that, a thing that you can do, and certainly They're not electric, I will tell you
Yeah.
that. You have to pedal the bikes on your own, which, I'm a fan of, frankly. And then let me also talk about, the ship in the background there, the Ama Magna, because one
Yes.
of the things that sets Ama Waterways apart is sort of our innovation as it relates to shipbuilding, and so that thank you, Sydney.
You're
So
welcome.
that ship is what's euphemistically referred to as a double wide or double width ship, which more appropriately should be, I suppose, for a trailer home. But in this case, there are a set of locks on the Danube River only, frankly, which, by the way, many first time river cruisers do the Danube or the Rhine, typically, was what they gravitate towards. But this vessel, the Ama Magna, in Latin, magna means great, came out in 2019. And they're this set of locks that are 72 feet wide, not 36 feet, which is the traditional lock size, and why almost every river ship is the same width at
Yeah.
36 feet and 443 feet long, and we all look the same in that regard. But the exception is here the Magna is 72 feet wide, right? And then a brother ship, because, and I know how to say sister or brother, I'll say twin ship. Another one's coming
I was gonna say
next
most
April.
ships are girls. I don't know why it is, but
Yeah,
it's always
yeah,
a girl. So
yeah. So
we're
I,
being more
I think
equality driven in
that's
2026
it, and
too.
I think, our founding family, Rudy Schreiner, it's RUDI, Rudy, he's Austrian, and his wife Christine, who's from, Dresden in then East Germany, actually. I think she may have been the impetus around, getting this, second vessel that matches the Magna to be named after her husband, Rudy. So they're gonna christen the ship, next spring, but that'll bring a second double wide vessel. What's interesting too is the fact that these ships carry about 190 guests at 72 feet wide, multiple restaurants, multiple bars, pickleball court, fabulous gym facility. I mean, if there's any ship that you could sort of sell as a little bit of a destination unto itself in our fleet, it would be the Magnum and the Rudy. They are really quite amazing. The average category is 355 square feet with a full balcony, and that is the size,
That's
and again, that's
insane.
predominant
Yeah.
category on the vessel, but that's the size of our suites on the other ships, the smaller
Right.
ships, right? So it's really, really remarkable to have then two of these vessels on the Danube starting
I was
next
gonna
year, and they
say
can.
because your ships that are 135 feet, I mean, 35 feet wide, host 165 on average people, and so you're talking double, and we're only talking 30 more people
Correct.
in terms
So
of clients. So
lots
there's
of
a
lots of
lot more
what's
wiggle
referred
room.
right, space ratio, as they say in
Yeah.
the ocean sector, space ratio, so there's very, very spacious, vessels indeed. Literally, you can walk down the hallway 2 by 2 by next to each other, right? Not in
Yeah.
solo line, so that absolutely, is part of the allure of these vessels, and they do not only what's called the Upper Danube in more of Western Europe, but they also do the Lower Danube in places like Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, Serbia, etc.
Brian, that one is so high on my to go on list. I wanna do that lower Danube. I love the Danube in general. I think it's one of my favorite rivers, but I wanna do the Iron Gates and do that
Right.
side of it. It's I think
I
it's gonna
did
be a
that.
2027 goal.
Good. Yeah, you should definitely try it. I did it a few years ago. I had the same desire as you to see the lower Danube, and it is definitely, you've left Western Europe, but it's an entirely sort of different feel and culture and all, and fascinating. And then, yes, to go through the Iron Gates and see the carving of King Decebalus in the side of the mountain. Very unique experience indeed, and so highly recommend. Yes, the lower Danube. We also offer land extensions in Romania to take you to Transylvania, hang out with the
Yeah,
Dracula's relatives.
Dracula. I will say I did go to Dracula's castle. I did a Romania just, like, land, and
Uh,
so I have a full red outfit that I wore, and I like, "Ha," the whole time to, like, "I
all
wanna
right.
suck your blood," because I mean, you have to, right? Like, it's the vibe.
It is the vibe. And then the other cool thing is often we'll have folks that are working on the vessel that are from that
Right.
area, right? So they're very proud of their home country, and there's a lilt in their step because they're near home, and so that adds to the experience as well. I,
I was gonna say, I have 2 questions that are very important. How serious are these FIFA competitions on board, like, with the staff? I feel
well,
like
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. So we had a note yesterday that our social media manager posted on an internal platform at most companies have. It's called
Yeah.
Teams,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Microsoft Teams. So she posted a story from the ship where the cruise manager and the hotel manager they were able to play some World Cup soccer for folks on board, and so people, both the staff from these
Yeah.
places and the guests, were extremely happy to be watching some World Cup. So we were in the moment as it relates to pulling that on the vessel to be able to show folks World Cup matches. So that was kind of cool.
Of course, I just know that I know that Europe takes football so much more serious than we do,
Yeah,
and, watching all of the tourists, I just know that, like, on board I remember, like, when there was some of these world matches, how much more, like, serious and how fun they take it and the competition of it.
absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure you got some very excited but tired staff who were staying up to watch it day
I'm
here,
sure that
night.
no doubt. Yep, yep.
And then my second question that I thought
Yes.
about, because since you've done it, I feel like the Iron Gate and that sort of area is just very scenic. How does that compare to, like, the Rhine? Because the Rhine is famous for the Rhine Gorge, but I feel like it has a very similar feel. Like, what did you think about the difference in
Yes, I
those
mean,
2?
the saying that we have is every day is a sea day, SEE, versus a sea day, SEA day. So,
Yeah,
from a scenic standpoint, so yes, going through. So, what is Sydney's referring to the Iron Gates, which sounds like, gee, it sounds rather ominous to go through the
sounds
Iron
like
Gates. What does that
yeah,
mean?
it sounds like we're going
Yeah,
through,
like something related to the former communist times, because it
yeah,
was called the Iron Curtain. Those countries were behind the Iron Curtain. You know, not an actual Iron Curtain, but the Iron Gates are where you transition from really the upper Danube into you're starting into the lower Danube. So it's a topographical region, and the topography is very steep and narrow, and then carved into the side of the mountain, sort of like a Mount Rushmore to a certain degree on a smaller scale is King Decebalus and his history in this area. So you see that mountain carving, and it gives you the idea. Wow, we're definitely transitioning into a new area of Europe. But it is absolutely beautiful and scenic. And then you can kind of see the church there. So you're transitioning from more of a Western Christianity into Orthodox Christianity in the East. So that plays into it as well. The food changes, the music changes. So it's not only the topography, but culturally as well, you're moving into the Eastern Europe feel, right? And so,
right,
in the many of these places you go in Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, again, very unique places, and people are warm and gracious and friendly. I will say you do see some remnants of the former communist times. Right, which is again part of the history, right? That
yeah,
where they were behind quote unquote the Iron Curtain. So that's interesting. We went to what am I thinking? Nikolai Tesla's museum in Serbia. That was absolutely fascinating since Tesla, obviously, we all know Tesla, but
yeah,
Nikolai Tesla was a genius, right? And from that area. The other thing I want to mention, I'm gonna take a quick diversion
I
here.
love it.
Just thank you. Just to say that we have a special. I want to throw out a special right now. So again, I'm just taking a quick right turn. So Christmas markets in Sydney mentioned doing a Christmas market cruise, right? Very interesting to do. Typically Rhine, Danube, these are the more traditional long-held Christmas markets, whether you're in a larger city like Vienna or Budapest or in Cologne in Germany, Strasbourg, France, but also the smaller little villages along the way. Anyway, unto themselves, they do these wonderful Christmas markets
Right.
where the artisans who have been working on crafts and whatnot are selling these things. These are not things you're going to find in the Macy's catalog under the tree gifts or stocking stuffers. But long story short, very wonderful time to be in Europe. Yes, it might be cooler weather, but people that gravitate toward these Christmas market cruises are there for a reason. So, what I'm going to tell you is that we have a special right now
Right.
that applies to many departures later this year at Christmas market time where you get a substantial discount, number one. And then number two, you pick either complimentary air, it's economy air. You can also get quotes for higher class service or a complimentary land program, pre or post cruise, right? So it's discount plus the air or the land. So I
Yeah.
just want to throw that out there just for grins for people that
No,
might be.
you're those promos, you guys have been doing right now have been amazing, and we were talking about it. You guys have, like, a free land for a decent amount of tours next year too.
And for next year too, yeah. So what Sydney's referring to, again, with the land opportunity, select sailings, and there are a lot of them. It's not every single departure,
No.
but quite a few where when you make a booking, you can choose either the pre or the post land opportunity. And typically, this is intuitive, you might say, well, there's a 3-night pre and a 4-night post. Well, I'm going to take the 4-night post because it's longer. It's and some of the more popular ones you already mentioned. One, Lake Como in Italy. That's kind of cool. Stay at a beautiful property right on Lake Como. That's an option. Also, if you happen to do Bordeaux in France, which is a very sort of wine centric river cruise, as you might
Yeah.
imagine, but the pre cruise that we offer in Bordeaux is 4 nights in Basque country in Spain. So
Such an
2 nights
amazing
in
area too.
Bilbao, where the
Mhm.
Guggenheim Museum is, and 2 nights in San Sebastian, right on the Atlantic seacoast.
Yeah.
And famous, you can look it up, but there's more Michelin star restaurants in San Sebastian, Spain, per square meter than anywhere else in Europe. So it's a foodie paradise. So
Yes.
so some of, and then Prague is always popular as well. So a lot of different land options, as it were. I also want to mention a new product for us, relatively new. We've been there a little over a year now, but the second ship was just christened. And when I say
Has it been
Colombia,
a
people
year for
say
Colombia?
yes. And
My
sometimes when I say
goodness,
Colombia,
congratulations.
thank you. It was a 7-year project,
Yeah.
which was not planned on to
Yeah.
be a 7-year project.
Never is.
But as it is when you're the new player in the venue, we're the pioneer down there. I say down there because when I say Colombia, sometimes people think, "Oh, yay, you're on the Columbia River. Yay, you're in America." But no, this is Colombia in South America, the
Right.
Magdalena River, right? So, interestingly enough, our founder, Rudy Schreiner, when he graduated from university in Vienna, Austria, he spent 6 months after graduating with 3 of his buddies on a raft on the Amazon River. They lived on the Amazon on this raft. Anyway, long story short, when it came
That's
time to
not how you
go,
guys are doing it though. Remember, we're
yes, we're
yeah,
not, no,
no,
you're
we're
not
not
going to
doing
be
a
on a
wrap.
raft. No. Yeah.
I've
Relive
seen the
Rudy's
photos. They're
experience.
gorgeous.
Colombia has been an absolute home run. And again, the Magdalena River is a 900-mile long river. We go between Barranquilla and Cartagena, or Cartagena and Barranquilla. The ships only carry around 60 guests each. But I've had numerous folks go over the last little while, including some folks that are, I would say, how do I want to say, persnickety, and they have come back and said, absolute home run, right? So we're
Yeah.
pleased about that. And we're the only folks down there operating on this itinerary. And then there are land options in Colombia. And also after the cruise, you can go up to Panama City and we stay at beautiful properties. So Colombia is known as the land of 1,000 rhythms. And the one thing consistently that people say when they come back is how warm, friendly, genuinely welcoming, and gracious are the Colombian people. So that's really nice to hear. So that's a product I just wanted to mention. Exotics wise, we also do the Mekong River in Vietnam. We also
I was gonna
do the
say though,
Nile.
I feel like the Magdalena and the Columbia would be like a perfect before because I feel like the Mekong and the Columbia have that same feel because it's not gonna be the cultured and the same thing that you're gonna get in Europe because it's a completely different country and like what you're gonna see. But if you were like, I kind of want to do the Mekong, but I don't want to go as far, like I would start with the Columbia because I feel like if you love that, you'll also love, the
Correct.
Mekong and that sort of
Correct.
feel.
And it's still, I mean, in Colombia, it's still definitely a cultural immersion is there as well. Because Rudy chose the Magdalena because it was a good blend of sort of the exotic, but with cultural, environmental as well. There's more species of birds in Colombia than all of North America combined. Again,
So
the
we need to get
food.
some bird watchers.
Yeah, if you like birds, Colombia is calling. It's an amazing pl and actually some of the folks that have come back that have sent me their photos, because I do happen to like birds, I'm in complete awe of the birds that are down there anyway, so that's, for people that are into that kinda thing, and that's a great place to go, but, yeah, and right now, speaking of special, we have a number of departures with free air down to Colombia, right? So, that's also out there in the marketplace. So a whole slew of different enticements, if you will, to have you come and
I
join us at Ama Waterways.
As I say, I do love a good promotion, and so I'm excited about that. Because also with using a travel advisor, you do get that 5% because I have been on Ama Waterways and can support that. So for those who want to book, you have that as a little extra bonus on top of all these amazing bonuses you've already got. Brian,
Right.
it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it really is, and with river cruising being as popular as it is, and by the way, I should mention Rick Steves, because people always say, "Well, which river should we go on first, Brian?" I get that a lot at consumer events for folks that have not been on a river cruise. So I always wind up quoting Rick Steves, who says that there's a section of the Danube River through Austria, through what's called the Wachau Valley, a
Yeah.
UNESCO World Heritage Area, but he always says that is the quintessential river cruise experience in all of Europe is through the Wachau in Austria on the Danube.
I was gonna say, I agree. I think the Danube is what I'd recommend for a first time river cruiser.
Yeah, it's I like the Rhine as well, and whatever your particular interest might, because we do 6 different itineraries in
Yeah.
France as well. We have more itineraries in France than any other river cruise line, so there's no bad choice, but if I have to pick one like you, Sydney, I would pick the Danube. But what's happening with the advent and the growth of river cruising from a product standpoint, number of ships, et cetera, it is consumer friendly very much right now. It's a purchaser's market, if you will, because there's all kinds of fantastic deals out there. And to be completely candid, all the river cruise lines were having a gangbuster year up until the war started, right? The
Yeah.
war, and then things kind of whoop, kind of went on a slight hiatus, and now bouncing back again.
The
So
flight discounts help because, oh my goodness,
yeah.
flight prices
Well,
have
that's
crazy.
right, 'cause the air with jet fuel and all, we all
Yeah.
feel it at the pump when we're pumping our gas, like, "Whoa, we're paying a lot for gas." Same with the
I was gonna
airlines,
say,
so
we're
they
both in
pass on those.
California. I'm excited that I'm in the low 5s, which is sad to say.
Yeah, yeah, under $6, right, yeah, no joke.
Okay, so before
Okay,
we end, why don't I'm
yes,
gonna do a quick rapid fire. So quick thoughts, are you ready for them? I don't know.
I'm ready.
What do you think is the most underrated river?
Underrated, I would say the Moselle. Or Mosel, as the Germans say. The Moselle,
I
which you
do
may
wanna
not
hear
have
that
heard of
one.
until I just said this now, it's comes off the Rhine River, and the way I heard it described by an advisor, who experienced it was, I felt like I was coming off I-80, Interstate 80 onto a backcountry dirt road, and so, that is a river that not a lot of people have heard of, but
Yeah.
interestingly enough, when I asked cruise managers, the former company I worked at and the current company at Ama, "What's your favorite river in Europe?" I would say 90% say that river, the Moselle.
Okay. What is your favorite European Christmas market city?
Golly, I'm going to say Nuremberg.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was
Nuremberg.
a close one. I think mine would be Rudesheim. I like how they do the world market, so, like, they have different countries as well.
Yeah,
I thought
that's
that was
cool.
really fun. Has there been a best local dish that you've tried on one of your river cruises?
Let's see. Local dish, let me think about it here. Probably in Budapest, the goulash and the
Uh,
paprika and
yes.
the
So
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yes, that was fabulous.
Uh, besides, Nana's cooking class, what was a favorite excursion? You can't say that too. I'm
Okay.
gonna give you a
Let
minute
me think
here.
of a favorite excursion. I would say I jumped on a bike in that Wachau Valley, a beautiful fall day, and got off the ship, and rode 20 miles up the river from the sort of the Dürnstein area to a little village called Melk, M-E-L-K, where the Benedictine
Yeah.
Abbey is. But after I got off the bike, I that's the best beer I've ever had. I can tell you that after the bike ride, and then went up to the Benedictine Abbey. But riding along the Danube, with some fellow guests, as the ship went by and we were waving to the folks that were still on the ship, that was quite something. Also, I happen to be Orthodox Christian, and actually we went to Saint Saba Orthodox Christian Church in, Belgrade, and
Oh,
and that
wow.
was just mind-blowing. So personally, that was a
Yeah.
favorite of mine.
I think my favorite is I went on, one of a river cruise over Easter one year,
Yes.
and we happened to hit Cologne on Easter Day,
Oh, wow.
and our guide was able to get us into the church while they were doing a full procession,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was
Yeah.
amazing on that front.
Yeah, that
So,
yeah, those
yeah,
kind of things that happen sorta,
happen
off
chance.
the cuff, yeah,
Yeah, it
fabulous.
was amazing. Well, Brian, I don't wanna take any more of your time. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank you,
to the
Sydney.
River Cruising Masterclass. For those that
You
wanna
bet.
continue the discussion, don't hesitate to reach out to me at Sydney at the Poodle Booked It or on social media with at Travel Advisor Sydney. So thanks again, Brian. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.
You too, Sydney. Thanks for having me. Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.